I'm Susannah.
And I'm Sarah, and this is our podcast, Silent Matters. Hi, and welcome once again to Silent Matters with Sarah Jane from SJ Personnel. And we've got Susannah here again.
Hi, everyone.
And we've got an amazing guest today. So we've got Mark Howes from Leading You, which is an amazing consulting business. We've got some really probably more educational information today, so people might want to get a pen and paper and write down some notes. But we're really going to talk to Mark about his experience with leading teams, motivating teams, and kind of what the difference between management and leadership is. So we're going to delve in and talk about different topics, but that's going to be the main topic for today. So we might first of all get Mark just to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about him and his background.
Welcome, Mark.
Hi guys. So I'm Mark, country boy, so I think that's really important because it gives you that grounding of good community, good family values, and when you're a leader, it's good to draw on those sorts of things in terms of those experiences you have growing up. So engineer by trade, had a fantastic career working in retail, multinational, had a chance to work with and lead teams across the globe and across the region. And one thing I find though is that people and humans, we're all the same, regardless of, we're all wanting to come to work to do a great job. And our role as leaders is to give them every opportunity to shine. So that's what I love about leadership.
Mm. What do you think, how do you see the difference between, everyone talks about management and, the senior leadership team. What do you see is the difference between being a leader and just being a manager?
There's lots of times where you'll wear both hats. When you're a manager, absolutely you've got a more core around delivering some core results. So, on your high-performing teams, we might call that more of a mechanics side. Have I done ABC and have I followed this particular process or procedure or system? The real governance stuff, which is really, really important in today's business environment, with lots of regulators. So we need really good managers. We also need good leaders, which is that bit about providing that vision for people to contribute. And that bit around not telling them exactly what to do, but where do we want to get to? And then our role as a leader is to create the environment where people can feel safe to be themselves and bring everything of them to the table. And good leaders will get the best out of people in terms of their ideas, their creativity, their innovation. And from that, you'll see great customer success stories, great business success stories when people have just got this leader that just lets them, guides them, molds them, coaches them to where it is that their strengths are and they work with their strengths.
Can you tell us a little bit, for anyone listening, about your consulting business and what that is all about and the types of businesses you help?
Yeah, so the core of my consulting business is really built around a framework that I've developed over a number of years about helping managers become leaders and then leaders being able to feel safe and confident in themselves around being free of not needing to direct their people but provide vision and direction. So what I do is it's a coaching orientated type business with some structure around it. So the purpose of having the structure is to help people go, all right, I need people to feel safe. I want people to make sure that they can contribute. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that we're having genuine, authentic conversations and that we're doing that on a regular basis. So some of it feels a bit managerial, but it's about creating the framework in which to lead. So providing those people the opportunity to do what it is that they need to do.
What do you mean by safe? Sorry. So what do you mean you say someone feels safe in the environment? What does that actually mean? Can you explain that in a bit more depth just for our listeners to know what they mean by that?
Yeah, so we've all had experiences where we've worked with that manager who just comes in and says, Mark, I need you to do this and I need it done by tomorrow and I need it next week. And then when you deliver it, well, you didn't do it in the same font that I needed and it was not exactly what I wanted. And so therefore I don't feel safe because what I do is I become introverted. So I might be an extroverted person, but in that scenario I start to introvert myself and say, I'm second guessing myself right now because it's not a safe environment because I'm trying to deliver for that manager.
It's like you almost get in trouble. Do you think like they almost feel like they'll be
anxious, constantly anxious?
Yeah, like
if your boss is
wrong,
constantly,
like they can't be their they can't bring their true self to work because they feel they may be judged on that.
So there's part of that in terms of I want to be myself and put my little edge on it. But the bit then, am I letting down a team? So therefore, it's not just to say it could be about me, but letting down the team. Do I feel safe in order to deliver what I need to deliver? And so a good leader will open that up. And we talk about creating safe spaces for people to come to work and be themselves in an authentic way. Mm-hmm. So how do I feel comfortable to contribute, even if my idea is so far left of centre, it's not going to be disregarded in a way that makes me feel inadequate or makes me feel like I was the silly one. So again, it's just that temperament between leadership and management in that sense.
What happens if some people do come with constant ideas that are so far off the mark that sometimes it does cause a bit of time wasting and they're not getting it? Sometimes you do need to bring those people into reality and go, you know what, it is so far off what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be some kind of control around that also.
You're really good at being the devil's advocate.
I am the devil's advocate. I don't mean to be, sorry.
I think that's a great question because as a great leader, you would have time prepared in your diary to have that conversation with that individual on a regular basis, because that's about creating that safety. How well do I know you? And in that, you might have a little coaching conversation. So one of the differences between managers and leaders will take that opportunity and say, I'm going to have a coaching conversation with Sarah now. And what I'm going to do is say, in that situation, it's 3 simple little questions. Okay, you might go, we're in this meeting and we're having this conversation, and you might ask the person, when you contributed, what do you think went well? So start with that positive. What was I looking for? What were you looking for to get out of that? And then you might say to that individual, what didn't go so well? Well, so then they might respond with, well, it just didn't hit the mark and whatever it needs to be. Then your third question becomes, okay, what will we do different? And it's not what will you do different, what will we do different? So then it's important that we are working together to say, okay, I want to have these ideas, for example, but they need to be in this environment. When we're having this type of conversation, when we're having this type of conversation, I need us to be focused because I might be playing the manager role because I need a task done by the end of the week in order to deliver a customer commitment. So this is understanding and coaching about when is the right time to be innovative and when is the right time that we've just got a customer demand, we just need to meet that now.
That takes a lot of time if you're talking about a smaller organisation who has a leader in that, time restraints obviously is probably the biggest issue, isn't it? Having that time to work on the business, work in the business and work on the people. Larger organisations probably have the funding and the ability to spend time doing that leadership side of things. So I'm just thinking of a lot of smaller businesses I have that we work with. It's a lot of them are so worked off their feet. It's almost like they're just running on this treadmill trying to get through to then sit and have that ability to take on that leadership. It's almost like unless a consultant comes in and stops them, it doesn't seem to come organically in the business. It's almost something goes wrong and a consultant comes in and then we stop. It doesn't seem just to occur because of time restraint. Do you see that or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you might call me in and I might come and have a conversation and not try and fix the problem that you're saying is I'm time poor because of all of these activities. I'll actually come in and have this conversation that says, well, what is important and what is urgent? Yeah. And especially if I'm a small business, because it becomes really imperative because the cost of your people is the major expense of your organisation.
Absolutely.
So therefore, if I'm not stepping back for half an hour or an hour each week to spend time with that person, then the multiplier effect starts to come in. So I end up spending more time in an area which is less productive than if I said, well, okay, let's work through what's important and what's urgent. Yeah. And let's quickly write a few things down and say next time when we're in this space, not important and not urgent, we're not spending any time on it or we need to stop doing that. Yeah, okay. So I need to prioritise time. It's a little bit like, so for the engineer in me, if I think about an Einstein where he talks about energy cannot be created or destroyed, it is converted. But the same with time. It's what do I do with my time? How do I prioritise my time? So I'm not stuck in this, I'm really busy. I'm really doing busy, lots and lots of work. But I'm so busy doing this work that actually I didn't achieve any revenue out of it. I didn't actually achieve any customer satisfaction out of it. But I got to the end of the week and I was really busy. So one of the things that I like to do, in particular with small teams, is, and you can call it a huddle, you can call it a Monday startup. It's not so much the term, but it's important that you get together people for, say, 30 minutes on a Monday. And not as the manager to set their tasks for the week, but actually the opposite. Ask them to set, what are the 3 goals that I'm going to have and achieve this week? And then if you're the manager or the leader, in particular of a small business, well, actually, I need you, this is your time to step in and go, I actually need you to focus on these things this week because I've got this customer demand, I need this delivered for, so I can do an invoice, whatever it needs to be. You can then direct at that point in time. But then at the end of the week, when you come together for, say, 15 minutes, how did we go this week? Create that sense of safety, create that sense of well-being, create the camaraderie. Yes, I did this and I learnt something. Or no, I didn't learn anything, or I didn't achieve it because, and so therefore as a team, small teams, it's imperative, absolutely imperative. We create socialisation with purpose. And so therefore your time will be better managed with a little bit of structure around it.
Yep, amazing. So, Mark, you have been a senior HR leader for a long time. I'd be really interested to hear how you've seen the perception of HR change over the years from, someone who sits in an office and, corners people in and says, come and have a chat, to someone who's really seen within the business now as a real support network and is very Switzerland, I guess. You're there to do the job for the business, but you are also there to help the employees very much so. So it's a really fine balance. I'd be really interested to hear how you've seen it evolve over the years.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved over the years. I think in the beginning, the HR function was very much, this is where I go and get my contract done. This is who I talk to about my remuneration. And if I don't feel like I can talk to my manager, I go and talk to someone in HR, and that's where I can go and complain. And that's still an important aspect of what we need to do. We just need to do that in a very efficient way for businesses, so we're managing time. The benefit of a good HR practice now is the encouraging leaders, but also good, strong HR leaders, is, do I spend my time in the business in terms of, and I'm not talking lots of time, but it's very much around, I might have 2 hours a week or 2 hours a fortnight where I go out and I just temperature check. So what is going on with the organisation? So what are they hearing from customers? What are they seeing that are the trouble points for them being successful? And then strong HR leaders bring that back to the executive team and say, this is what I've heard, this is where it came from, what can we do about it to create more engaged employees? Because we know the more engaged employees are, the better experiences they're having, the better the customer outcomes, the better the revenue for the business, and everyone then enjoying everything that we want to do.
So it's almost so much more proactive than reactive. I feel like HR used to be very reactive, almost to react to when there was a need, when there's a new staff, we do a contract, when there's an issue, we come and help out. So HR was almost there to put fires out when they were lit, whereas I definitely agree the strategy around HR now is actually about, why don't we look at what maybe needs to happen.
Predetermine, yeah.
Yeah, and let's stop those fires from happening. Let's think one step ahead and actually have that strategy to make the place better before the fires come, which I think that's where it's evolved over time. But I think that's also with people taking on HR's advice as well. I think maybe in the past HR was probably, no one really knew a lot about the business unit. Maybe there's a lot more respect and understanding for what we actually do now. So businesses are incorporating us more into the management meetings and the leadership teams than maybe they were in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I think over time and HR resources and practitioners have got better at understanding the business from the perspective of, I don't need to have all of the answers and I don't actually need to solve those crisis problems. I need to help coach, develop, guide the managers and the leaders of people to be able to understand before these become issues, and that they then can manage them themselves. So the same as we sort of circle back to your question around small businesses, where do I spend my time? Again, part of what I do in my consulting business is to say, on whether it be a structure of Monday and Friday or whatever works for that particular leader in that particular business, what are your regular touch points with your team? Because if you're not having those regular touch points and partly about their well-being, the work that's required, the direction that they're heading, the performance that we're on, then they are the precursor to making sure that those fires don't occur.
But how, like a regular can be, small business can it be coming in just saying, good morning, how was your weekend? Like, can that be a touch point? Or are you talking about an actual preset, purposely led touch point, or more just an organic one where you go, how's your night? Like how purposeful does that need to be? Or can it be, I suppose, in our organisation, it's probably more of a, we get in and for half an hour in the morning, we all have a bit of a chit chat about what we did last night, and it's all very organic and quite superficial how we were going, but it's not actually a proper touch point. But I feel like that's enough to check in. Is that right or not?
So I would, again, when you bring teams together and we can then have a conversation around, well, how genuine is the conversation? Mm-hmm. And so in a very small team, it might be really a good touch point and really genuine. Mm-hmm. But in a larger team where you might have people working on different sites, you've got to think about, so not one size fits all for all of this stuff. I'd suggest that absolutely don't lose the informal element, but sometimes you can just put a little bit of a twist to the informality and go, okay, what do I want to achieve this week? Because that creates a little bit of more purpose to the conversation than just, well, and then it's like, I did this on the weekend. Well, actually, I'm feeling really tired because, I had to look after my elderly parents and they're a bit run down, and actually that's got me a bit run down. Or what do you need to achieve this week, Sarah? I need to achieve this. Okay, well, how do I help you achieve that? So it turns the conversation just from not being, how was your weekend, to, okay, what do you want to achieve this week, and then how can I help you?
But then you also turn around and go, I'm bad cop once again. Someone does come in and say they're tired from the weekend. Totally understand that. But you're still paid to do a job and to come and get that job done. So that's unfortunate. You're tired. It's unfortunate things have occurred. But how do we still also go, but do you know what? The job needs to still get done.
They showed up on Monday.
But are they showing up at 50%, yeah? We're paying them for 100. But so that means, so on Monday, right, they turn up at 50%. Am I going to pay you 50% on Monday because you're only turning up 50%?
I feel like I've come in on Mondays and said, I'm really tired a lot. I'm going to reverse that.
Okay. So can I say, would you know, you're feeling at 50%, yes, I'm actually going to pay you 50% now because you're only working at 50% because you're tired. So I'm just trying to reverse that to...
So I'd be having a conversation with you that says, how much is this about time and a dollar value for effort versus time and a dollar value for performance? So what is the actual outcome that I need from these individuals versus time and effort? So don't want to get into a time and motion study in that sense.
But
it's
I
more
do really
showing
valid.
For others though. It's more showing though, if one person's tired and they're getting away with working 50% and they see that I let that be acceptable, then others start going, well, they're working at 50%. I'm going to start following that.
This is really interesting. I remember a long time ago in my previous role, a client that I would never mention did come to us and say potentially they wanted to do a time in motion study, and they were really concerned with how that potentially would affect the staff. It didn't end up eventuating, but I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I could never work for an organisation that is literally going to count. If I look, it was totally different to that. This is literally retail shop floor. If I spend 30 seconds staring at something that's additionally longer than what I should be, I'm talking every second was counted down to the dollar, down to the wire. I mean, that to me breeds a horrible culture and a horrible environment, and it's a place I would never ever engage with. I mean, you just mentioned the time and motion study, which is relevant to sort of what you're saying, Sarah, about bringing yourself into work and you're only operating at 50% capacity because you've taken yourself out night clubbing till 5 a.m. in the morning on Saturday night. Not your problem as a business owner. But Mark, I think what you're trying to say is if they're achieving what they needed to achieve within that 8-hour space of being in the office, is that acceptable?
So I think if there's nothing that COVID didn't teach us is that we actually bring our whole selves to work. So I can't park things at the door. I can't park that. During COVID, I was really tired because I was homeschooling at the same time at doing work and then needing to work late and trying to juggle all of those particular balls. This is a really good example of the difference between manager and leader. A strong leader will have faith in the individual and in faith in the team that the performance-focused goal, whether it be the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, is what we're talking about as a strong leader. And what am I doing to encourage and grow that? If I'm the manager and I'm focused on all of those tasks all of the time, then as you say, that's the culture that I'll create. That's not the safe space that then people want to, they'll just do the bare minimum.
You almost need both though, I feel, in an organisation. You almost need that operational manager to keep people aligned with the business organisation. And then you almost need the leader as well to then almost give them that extra kick and inspiration to take it further. So it's almost a role, you almost need both. Well, I think in an organisation,
I think there is.
Leadership role.
I think there is. I mean, in large corporations, there is your ops manager. And then
small business, I'm talking about.
Yeah, small business. I mean, if we're talking us, for example, you're not going to have an ops manager. I mean, you're the managing director. You decide what happens and what doesn't. But I think it's pretty clear what your expectations are from your staff. But there's still a lot of flex and a lot of chat and a lot of fun, and that is why you're retaining your staff. But I think in a large corporation, you need the ops manager and then the leader that.
So can you be a leader and a manager in a small business in the one, like if a small company, you have the director and the manager, can they be a leader and a manager?
Absolutely. That's the purpose of what we're here to sort of grow people to be.
Do you play both roles?
Absolutely. So what got you here will not get you there. So this then becomes the core question that, we're asking the small business owner, why? Why do you do what you do and where do you want to go? Now, if you're comfortable with, I have a revenue base of 200,000, I have one staff member and I'm okay with that, then we don't need to do a lot of stuff. But if you're, you've got a revenue base of 2 million, you've got half a dozen staff, but you want to grow to 5 million to 10 million to wherever you want to take this because you've got this huge passion for your customer and the business that you're about, then absolutely we need to talk about what got you to your starting point is not going to get you to your end point. And to get to your end point, you can grow too. One of the reasons that I call my business Leading You is it's really important that you understand yourself, that you're your own best coach, and that you need to be able to step out of your body and observe, what am I doing? What am I trying to achieve? And in that moment, should have I been a manager where I'm looking to direct a task, or am I looking to be a leader where I want to inspire my team to take me to that next level without being prescriptive and telling them everything that they need to do to get there?
So true, but a lot of the time I feel like sometimes you just become reactive in that situation, don't you? And you almost react and then you sit back and go, oh, maybe in that situation I probably could have handled that differently at that time. Sometimes you naturally have that fight or flight mode, don't you, that you, a lot of us are, preconditioned to go down that channel of almost a natural emotional reaction will happen. And then we've got to sit and go, hang on, maybe actually it probably wasn't the best thing for the organisation at that time.
I think that's potentially the real cut difference between a leader and a manager, someone who's able to step back before they react.
Control their emotions.
Exactly.
Almost, it's almost resetting. If you feel like reacting at a certain time.
Walk away.
or stopping and understanding you can actually reset your own personal emotions and then see it from another point of view, like, which is really tough to do, like, especially when you're in a really stressful, competitive, tough environment. To do that, like, it sounds easy us sitting in this booth and talking about it, but in an actual work situation, it can be challenging. You've probably seen that numerous amount of times, Mark, in your experience.
So I try not to draw on sports too much, but it's easy. So at the end of every game, every team goes away and says, what did we do well? What didn't go so well? And what are we going to do different next time? As a leader, I cannot emphasise enough that for yourself, you are your own greatest critic. At the end of every day or the end of every week, put time in your diary to reflect on what did I do well, what didn't go well, and what will I do different next time. So yes, you can try and say, I've had a learning. And so then the next time it comes, I can preempt, and I'm not going to be, because this time I've had kids and they're late to school because they weren't behaving, and now I'm 5 minutes late for this meeting. And so you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to delay the meeting by 10 minutes so I can draw breath, because the last time I didn't delay the meeting, I was not a very good leader.
Okay.
So it's about the learning. So leading you is all about your own self-learning all of the time.
It's almost self-awareness, isn't it? It's really becoming aware of what your emotions and what makes you tick and how to actually regulate them on an ongoing basis.
One of the key strengths, successes, necessity for a good leader. Understand yourself, have that good emotional intelligence about yourself.
But how, in all honesty, how hard is that? Like
To self-reflect?
Also, it's pretty hard to do that. Would you not agree? Like, I think it's a lot of training and develop. Like, it's a lot of work to get to the point where you can feel in quite control of your emotions and know that in any situation that you've got it and you've got control. Like, I think that takes a lot of work.
Oh, I think it's being accepting of understanding, well, this is my strength and this is my weakness. And so, and not to beat yourself up when you have that moment, because we all have those moments. We're human.
Yeah.
The same way if I sort of go back to, in that moment, you know, don't beat yourself up, because you could go back to where you were before and say, well, I'm not going to pay myself 50% now because I wasn't very productive in that moment and doing those sorts of things. Yeah. It's about, did I learn? And then can I take the team on that learning as well? Because in that moment, if you're it's in a team environment, we might be able to come up with agreed strategies beforehand that say, all right, Sarah, I see this happening. I think we just need to pause, or, you know what, we're going to go and try this now. Because otherwise we're going to head down this path, because that's been our previous experience. That's the high-performing team side. The manager part will do the mechanics. Do I have my key performance indicators? Do I have the procedures? Do I have all of those things? The leader will be able to say, all right, as a team, how do we make sure that we're having genuine conversations and that we're working together on our team culture, that we are all learning together, so we keep doing it better and better and better, and better all the time.
Yeah.
Generating revenue, growth.
Yeah, and that's absolutely amazing. Like, that's what it's all about. It's what we want to see, and it's where we want to go, and the journey we want to go on. It's just sometimes you can see other people doing that, but I'm just trying to show that you've got to put the work in, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like you're not just going to come as a amazing, inspiring leader overnight. You've actually got to put time and effort into those skills to create them and to deliver them. So I think some people are like, I just want to be, I want to take on this business and be this great boss. But are you actually investing in yourself and your skill set to get there, which takes time to really understand yourself? And
Mark, if somebody did want to tap into your amazing service, how do they find you?
Well, just through word of mouth, really, is how I operate. So I don't run a website.
You don't run a website?
You have a website?
No.
Oh, well, word of mouth. Well, do you have Facebook or Instagram or something?
Just through LinkedIn. So people will
so Mark House, will come
me
through SJ,
I'll come through SJ.
We can direct. Do you have a website? No, that's amazing.
I think what I like to do is be really intimate and personal.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
So the conversation here is, so if we were to take this to a different stage, the conversation might be saying, well, we have kids, or those that have children. We know how much children like routine. So to sort of take your question.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and you're absolutely right, you don't just turn a switch and kids behave. You don't just turn a switch and then you're a leader. Mm-hmm. But what it does come with is routine of, I'm going to do this activity on a regular basis, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep learning, and I'm going to keep getting better. Mm-hmm. But the real key to that is putting the time aside to do that. Otherwise, you get back to 12 months from now and you're having your reflective annual Christmas party, and what did I achieve? Well, I did lots and lots of stuff, but I probably didn't get to where I wanted to get to because I was really busy doing busy stuff.
Yeah. It's almost a buzzword too. It's almost to be busy is to be cool in a way. If you're not busy, it's almost like what's wrong with you, which is, I think that's changing. I don't think that is as cool, is it, as what it once was, being busy. I think it used to be like everyone was always just like, I'm so busy.
Stressed, busy, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not,
So
people
busy.
question, if you're not busy, then you're not productive or...
So I always like try to build into leaders that say, and teams, that you should have at least, I would call it, I like the term hour of power. So at least you dedicate 1 hour every week where you lock yourself away to learning. Whatever it is that you need to learn or you want to learn, your own professional development, the investment in yourself is the biggest investment as a leader you can ever make. Not enough leaders do it. And so
It's
you've
time
got,
though, isn't it?
but imagine that 1 hour, so that's 1 hour a week, so let's call it 40 hours a year of good leadership focused time and developing. Give it a multiplier effect of 10 because I'm a 10 times better leader. I get 10 times more productivity.
And what are some of those strategies? Like if there is a leader out there listening and thinks, what an amazing idea, I need to do that. What would you do? I mean, what have you done hourly?
So I start with, Fridays, 9 till 10, and use LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So
okay.
9 to 10 is my LinkedIn time where I will either use a training course or do some research on something in particular, just something that I might be a little bit outside of what I've been working on to go, well, can I incorporate that into what I do? What can I learn from that?
Okay.
Sometimes it's a bit mechanical. Every now and then you might have to go, well, I'm actually not really understanding the finances of something, so I'll just go and do a little quick finance module. Or, I might swap that hour and say, all right, I'm going to go and do a seminar. It's a seminar coming out of Singapore and it's at this time. But again, it's not always necessarily that it needs to be 9 to 10 on Friday. Routine is strong and positive. But I get to the end of the week and go, did I dedicate an hour to learning something new this week as a leader?
How about, I know we're way over time, I'm so sorry, Mark. Just one of the other buzzword going around town at the moment I just want to touch on a little bit is, self-help and self-love and meditation and things like that. So is that something you will sit, and I know that everyone says, as me being a business leader in the community as well, they say you should be committing half an hour every week or every day to do a meditation and really connecting with yourself and those kind of things. That almost personal self-help and self-wellbeing, how strong and important do you think that is for a leadership role and leadership duty?
It's imperative. I'll probably take the step back. So I like to coach leaders and say, there's 3 things that I want you to sort of pop in a little matrix and so you consider. So what are your goals around yourself? What are your goals around your community? What are your goals then around your health and well-being? Well, that's a little bit in self. And then what are your job goals? So because it's taking a holistic view of yourself. Again, back to where we were before, we don't come to work, take one magical hat off and open the front door, and then we put a work hat on. And then at the end of the day, we take that off and we put on our life hat. We live life 24/7. And so what happens before work and after work, I bring to work and I take home. Because again, the same bit. So depending on your profile or if you get to the end of the day and your energy levels are so low that when you go home, you're frustrated and you've got a family, I want to have a chat to you about how do we find 30 minutes at the end of the day to make sure your energy levels are the right energy for when you go home. Because you have a partner at home, you have children at home, you have a family. I want you to be switched on for them as well, because that's part of your total life matrix and the goals that you have. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a great mother. I want to be a great son. great daughter. All those things need to be, as leaders, absolutely spend time.
And I really think now, I think back to my parents, when they worked, it was you're at work and that's it. I don't want to hear about your personal life. They never would have brought their personal life into the office. Now it's definitely, companies are very much about, there's such a balance, which we love. I think we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Social media, it's there. We use it for business. We let people use it for, their family bits too. So again, that's the give and take that we need to have as leaders and understand the balance.
Well, thank you.
Oh, that was so
insightful.
I find that so inspiring. So I hope other people also could take away so much from that, Mark. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you so much, Mark. And if anybody does want to contact Mark, just come through SJ.
Yeah, we'll pass the details. Or LinkedIn. Come through us and we'll pass on the details because you have a website. You'll have to get one up and running. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, team.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Mark.
it.
Thanks.